Let's go to our next caller after this. Invisible Empire, available only at INFOWARRIOR.com and PrisonPlanet.tv. Get a hard copy, folks. Make hundreds of copies. I'm going to read you some of the reviews I've gotten on the other side of this. And in the beginning of the second hour, we're going to have Luke Radowski on to talk about the film as well. It's the InfoWarrior with Jason Bermas, InfoWars.com and PrisonPlanet.tv.
If you believe in redemption, I'm coming to you from another dimension. If you believe in redemption, I'm coming to you from another dimension.
We're back. It's the InfoWarrior with Jason Bermas, and that is the Flowbots. They've actually got a new album on the horizon right now. We need to get them back on. They were on the Alex Jones Show about 2 years ago with their debut album, and they have a hot single out right now called White Flag Warrior with one of the singers from Rise Against. Now, I'm going to go to your calls in just a minute, but I want to read some of the comments out there on Invisible Empire, and we're also going to play the intro in this segment. I want people to understand that I came at this whole thing from a perspective of not knowing anything, of being awakened through 9/11 and the deceit around that event, and then going further and seeing what 9/11 was really about. And when you look at false flag terror, when you look at 9/11, when you look at the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, it spells out New World Order in the elitists and establishment's own words. And we prove it again and again and again and again and again in this picture. But I wanted people to understand I'm just a regular guy. I came at this as a guy that went out every weekend. All he cared about was drinking and girls and hanging out with his buddies and maybe getting into a good job after college and trying to be a graphic designer. That was it. I was absolutely absorbed by pop culture. I remember one of my favorite shows prior to 9/11 being Temptation Island. Temptation Island, folks. There might not be a bigger steaming pile of crap on television ever other than Temptation Island, but I was mesmerized by this show. And I see that now in pop culture, in mainstream America, that people are just totally and completely absorbed by American Idol and other worthless garbage. So let me read this one out. This is why I make films. Now, this is Second Sinner talking to somebody who was, one of the trolls on the boards there. Blah, 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 blah. The important thing is this woke up my whole school in 2 hours yesterday. Everybody was stunned, even the teachers. Afterwards, I asked everybody, what do you think of my conspiracy theories now? All they could say was, I'm sorry that we didn't believe you. You were right all along. And you know who woke me up to this stuff? Immortal Technique and Alex Jones, like it or not. They are doing a great job, so F you and buzz off. And I could go through the rest of these, but I do want to get your comments on the film Invisible Empire, A New World Order to Find. Let's go to Mike in Texas. Mike, you're on the line.
Hey, what's going on? I'm in Midland, Texas. I'm a huge fan of you guys. Invisible Empire was amazing. So was Fall of the Republic. I'm looking forward to the new one, the Police State 4.
Excellent.
I showed Invisible Empire to a lot of my friends. But, hey, I just wanted to call and echo some of the things an earlier caller said, and what you guys are talking about in the first hour is them linking this OKC thing with the Tea Parties. Now, Sunday in Odessa, Texas, we had our Tea Party, right, our Tea Party rally. There was maybe 250 people there. I was looking out for snipers and didn't see anything. Anyway, Sunday morning I wake up and there's a newspaper article, right? 7 paragraphs down on the first page of the newspaper, it says that this whole thing, like the Tea Parties, are linking it to the Waco Branch Davidians and the OKC. Now, if you're familiar with Texas, you understand that Midland, Odessa comprised of maybe 200,000 people. This is like, an outpost in the middle of a desert. No one is out here. No one has heard of this place. No one comes out here. If you're walking to this place, you'd die in the desert. You know what I mean? And here they are, linking the Tea Parties out here, one single Tea Party with 200 people, maybe, on a rainy day, and they are calling us OKC bombers. Isn't that just amazing? I mean, look it up.
And meanwhile, the Oklahoma City bombing is a federal government bombing. That doesn't mean the entire federal government is involved. It means that this was a bombing by within. You look at it again. The ATF running a drill. Not there. Bombs inside the buildings. McVeigh, part of a special ops squad on a military base over a year after he was supposedly discharged. A second man involved. The mayor, the governor at the time, Frank Keating, admitting there were explosive devices in the building, but they want to demonize the average Americans out there. And then to bring in Waco. Well, if you don't know about Waco, folks, I suggest you check out Waco Rules of Engagement. It was actually up for an Academy Award the year it came out, and it clearly shows federal agents gunning down women and children as they tried to escape out the back after they lit their establishment on fire. Yes, they firebombed the Branch Davidian complex. Anything to close up with, Mike?
You know what? They are clearly setting us all up for this. They're creating the tea parties, co-opting the tea parties with folks like Glenn Beck, and then they turn around and spin it on the news on even these little crap towns that I live in. It's like they're getting their orders from up high to tie these into Waco, into OKC. They are definitely getting ready for something big. And if you guys don't believe me, go to Midland Reporter Telegram and look it up. It's right there on the first page. Have a good day. Thanks a lot, man.
All right. Thank you so much, Mike. Let's go to Kevin in Georgia. Kevin, you're on the line. Yes, sir.
Hey, Jason. How you doing?
Good.
I just want to say, great film, Invisible Empire. Hit me in the gut, man. Great information about the New World Order. But I was calling in regards to following up on Alex's statement and also the guy from West Virginia with the police state. I have an article here that I can send you from the Barrow County Journal that an Asian lady that is a legal citizen, she's been living in this country for 20 years, had a knock on her door one night. She answered the door unreluctantly because she come from a communist country. She answered the door and had a gun put in her face. She was hogtied outside of her house. And at the end of the statement in this article, police said, well, if police report is not filed, it didn't happen. So
wait, let me stop you, Kevin, because hold on, let me just stop you. Let's pull it back just for a second, because she answers the door and there's a gun pointed in her face. Obviously, we're talking about some kind of a law enforcement, but what did they say they were there for? Immigration violation?
They were there for drug enforcement.
Well, they were there for drug enforcement on this woman.
Drug enforcement meaning they were at the wrong house, which is typical here in the Atlanta area because of the murder of an elderly lady back in 2006. And they admitted now the cops are in jail. They went to the wrong house. And after the second and third just interrogation of this lady, the chief of police says, well, don't file a police report. That's a perfect example of a police state.
Well, let me tell you how it really works. I'm going to give a personal story here from my childhood. I appreciate the call. When I was about 13 years old, we had moved to this upstate New York town when I was 12, so we were relatively new. Now, we were having our house painted. Had to be scraped off. It was a team of about 4 or 5 painters at my house. And I live in a parking lot. I know that's hard to explain, but I have a little yard, and then there's a parking lot to the main grocery store and the main bank at the time. So this is like a hot spot for people to drive around in my very, very, very small town. Now, I come home one night, and my mother, there was just something wrong with my mom. And I'm like, Mom, what's wrong? Are you going to tell me what's wrong? And I had kind of had some problems with one of my really good friends' parents who worked with the county, and I didn't know why. So my mom looks at me, and she's like, I was taken to the police station today. I didn't know what was going on. They pulled me into a room. They accused me of being a cocaine dealer. My mother. I can assure you, folks, my mother is not a cocaine dealer. Now, they were telling her, we know what's going on. We know you're dealing coke. We have your husband in the other room. He's already given you up. And she's like, I don't know what you're talking about. Me and my husband, my stepfather at the time, aren't dealing cocaine. What are you talking about? And they interrogated my mother for 5+ hours, simply lying to her. My stepfather had not been picked up. He wasn't in the other room. He hadn't confessed to being a cocaine dealer. Because guess what? My parents weren't dealing cocaine. It turned out that some of the painters at my house were on camera dealing cocaine while they were painting my house. And that must mean that my parents were dealing cocaine out of my house to some random painters who had had prior drug convictions. That's how it works. They don't have to have any evidence whatsoever. They just come pick you up and lie to you. If you are ever put in a situation like that in the police, just shut your mouth and say, I want to see my lawyer, or I want to see the charges you're going to bring against me. Let's go to our next caller, Brian in Maine. Brian, you're on the line.
Hey, Jason. Good evening. Thanks for the movie. It was incredible.
Well, thank you, sir.
Probably be able to wake my brother up with that thing.
Excellent. What do you think the strongest part was?
Well, one of the main things is that it isn't from Alex Jones's voice as much as we love him. Unfortunately, it's just unfortunately, a lot of us, I think, find ourselves associating these issues with one man, and it's really a dangerous place to be. And so, you being outside of that sort of, I guess, right-leaning sensibility, regardless of your politics, your youth. And I know you're not that much younger, but anyway, it's incredibly well put together. The focus on separating those images from their background photographs is awesome. Keep that up. You're turning that Ken Burns effect on its head and making it better.
Excellent.
I just called about one quick issue with regard to this false flag terror threat and what Alex has been talking about. I noticed, when you have certain guests on, you have to be polite. You don't want to frighten them off and everything. But with regard to Colonel Anthony Schaefer's visit to Alex's show this week, I found it pretty interesting how Alex pressed him a bit on who Al-Qaeda was, and he really smelled nasty. He smelled like a nasty death cult operative to me.
Well, let me say this about Anthony Schaefer. Let me just say this about Anthony Schaefer. Have you seen Fabled Enemies, Brian?